Alright, so we are the Shai Hills Resource Reserve. So it was a clan that inhabited this area. That tribe was being called the Se. And the Se people are part of the Ga-Adangbes people. And they migrated from Israel. From Israel, they moved to South Sudan. From South Sudan, they moved to Nigeria, Ile-Ife. Then they later used the shores to this place. So they tried selling at so many places, but this was their final destination. And they came in the 4 clans. The 4 clans inhabited the 4 caves. We have the Manyayo cave, we have the Sayu cave, we have the Huawei, and then we have the Ajuku cave. And then they were being housed by a hill called the Mughal Hills. It's around this side. So from here, we'll be going there. So with the Sayu cave, it's having 3 chambers. The first chamber is an area with rocks being arranged. During the stay of the Shais around there, that was where they were arranging rocks to the top, and then they were pushing them on their enemies. The second chamber is their chief's chamber, and then the third chamber is their ancient chief's chamber, but now inhabited by insect-eating bats. So the third chamber for Sayu cave is not quite okay for side viewing. Then we have another one called the Manyayo. The Manyayo is very close to the reception area, but you have to drive to a point and then make a stop, and then walk for about 2.4 kilometers in and out, and that's the second largest settlement. But that place is not having any nice view at the top, so tourists do not choose that side for their tours. And then we have the highest, that's called the Huawei. That's where they had the Wonderland Festival. That was last year, December 28th. So over there, that was where the Shais were having a watchman at the top, having a clear view of the reserve. So with them, when there is war, they just pull out the war drum over there and then drum for those in the other caves to also hear and then get prepared for war. And then we have the last one called the Ajuku cave. That was the hiding place of the ancient Shais before the British came and then colonized us. So what you expected to see around here or at the Sayu cave is the entrance. That's the first one. The second one is the 3 chambers, and then the third one is the watchman's view. But over here, what's going, the trees are interlocking, so you won't really feel the sunshine. So let's go on the top. Alright, so this was their entrance by then. And you know, during their days, they believed this place to be very sacred. And with that, they were entering with their bags and then having leaves on their lips. But later, Forestry Commission saw that there is now an attraction site, so they need to perform certain rites to care of the issue. So now you can enter with any style. You can dance at Baja and then enter Pan logo. If you be a support dancer, if you dance as support, then enter. So that's the view from this point. So we are going to where the ladder is, and I'll give you a briefing about that place. Then we'll continue at the top. Touch anything. Make sure you climb without touching anything. Where I am.
Why?
Because there are droppings of the bats over here. The bats, when they come out at night, these are the areas where they do the pooping and droppings and all that.
What if I mistakenly touch something?
And you need to wash your hands afterwards. But it's quite okay if you don't touch anything. Over here, you can hold the tree vines.
Yo.
Alright, so this is the first chamber. You know, during their days, they came in 1000 ADs. And 1000 ADs, if you're a historian, you know that's the Stone Age period. So by then, those people were relying on rocks or stones for everything. So this was where they were arranging the rocks to the top and then pushing them on their enemies at. Then we have the second chamber over here. Alright, so this is the second chamber. That's the chief's chamber. That's where the chief was sleeping during their days around here. I know the guns were normally the cavemen and then cave women. So that's an area they carved for their chief. So their chief used to sleep here, and then this is where the chief sits during his command and then chats with his people. Then we have the third chamber around this side. It's over here. There are so many bats on the sides of the rock. There are so many bats. They are making the noise or the sounds. So they are one of the reasons why we don't go to the third chamber. Then we are going to the top to have the watchman's view. But during their stay, they had this watchman that climbs the tree vine you are seeing to the top and then have a view of the reserve. So with that, as to whether intruders are coming or not, they are just there and having a view of the reserve. So if there is an intruder coming, they'll see that intruder and then communicate with their people to start arranging the rocks and then be waiting for them. So once they enter, they just roll down the rocks on them. So let's go and have the watchman's view. Cross. Okay. We are supported by ropes. Right. Let's go. Please follow suit. So the watchman is able to see up to a faraway point to see if there are people coming or not. Then with that, they will get prepared for that person. So that was the view they were having during those days. From this place, we are going to the hill over there. It's called the Mughal Hills. That's the home of bears, baboons, and green monkeys. So that was where the Shais were sending all their ladies who have reached adolescence for them to be initiated into womanhood. So that's where they were doing their depot or puberty at. So we are going down now. This place, if you know you are scared of heights, you turn and go this. But you are not scared of heights, you just turn. Alright, so we are done with the Sayo cave and we'll be heading towards the Mughal Hills. So we'll now enter our car and then make a drive to that place. And I told you that was where the Shais were sending all their ladies who have reached adolescence to that area for them to be initiated into the womanhood for a period of 6 months. So let's get there. When we get there, I'll give you a little bit of history about that place. Then we'll continue. So we are at the Mughal Hills. So that's the home of bears, baboons, and green monkeys. They usually dominate this area, but as you can see, we are in the rainy season, and then all these animals are getting food elsewhere. And tourism or tours are a disturbance to them, so it's quite difficult for you to come across them around this area. But the Shais, like I said, migrated from Israel. From Israel, they moved to South Sudan. From South Sudan, they moved to Nigeria, Ilefe. Then they later used the shores to this place. So they tried selling us so many places, but this was their final destination. And they came in the Falklands. The Falklands inhabited the 4 caves. And then they were being housed by these called the Mughal Hills. So they were sending all their ladies who have reached adolescence to this place for them to be initiated into the womanhood. So they were being taught how to cook, how to talk, and everything. But what you expected to see are the 3 slopes. The first one is a gentle, the second one is a steep, the third one is a gentle. Then we'll get to the top and then see the grooves. Those are the areas where they did the grinding. Then we'll get to the summit and then have a view of the reserve. Then we'll go down and then go and see a cave beneath where we are going to start at the summit. And then we'll see the baobab tree. So let's commence with it. We get first slope. With this one, with the climbing, you have to be moving to your right. It's quite gentle over there. I don't know.
Tempo, Mapla.
Oh, I need the casket. We will just carry me. God, okay, Alright, so the round spots you are seeing everywhere are called the groups. During groups, GROOVS, that was where the ladies were doing the grinding during their stay. So you know the Gans inhabited this area, the Ga-Adangbes, who were called the Se. So they were doing the grinding of corn, pepper, herbs, spices, and everything over here. Before later there was the introduction of a corn mill machine. Then they weren't able to mention the corn mill. Then they started coming. That's how come we call Kiki Kom. It was as a result of the introduction of the corn mill. So with the Shais, there is always a watchman at the top. So if you're an intruder and you are coming from afar, they will see you. And with them too, they see the monkeys and the baboons to be very sacred. Because they claim during the stay of their ancestors around here, when intruders are coming in, when they are not aware, they make loud noise and then they hear and then they be prepared for them. And then these people were being sacked from the reserve in 1892 on reasons being that the British said they weren't paying taxes to their central government. They were involved in tribal wars, and then they were trapping people who were going in for barter trade with the British. So the British capitalized on these three reasons and then had a war with them, whereby the British were using the gun and the gunpowder, and then they were using the rocks. So with time they saw that there is no way the rocks can defeat the guns. So they then had to leave this area or evacuate this area for the British. So an area like Dodowa, Afienya, Manyajopanya, we have Agomeda, we have Kudiabe, we have all those areas are now being inhabited by these people. So they are being permitted to come and then perform their festive rites when the time is due, but they need to come with a letter from the headquarters to show that they are being permitted to come and perform their festive rites. So we are going down this way. So this is one area where they do the pitch camping. So you are seeing ashes over here. They will set up the stakes for you, and then they will set up the fire. So whilst you are having your barbecue and everything, then the ranger will be down here protecting you, and you will mount your tent around this side. So you'll be sleeping, and then maybe in the night you do your barbecue and all that. But it's been done around 4 p.m. Then the next day you leave, and then they will take you on a tour. Then after the tour you are done with this tent for pitch camping. I may remember what tourists like you can choose to sleep here. So you can share pictures. Well, I mean. So this is how you are going down. Yes.
What if you don't like to go down like that?
Sometimes you can come by if you get something. The baobab tree is able to live up to 3,000 years, and the Shai is called the tree of life due to the quantity of water it's able to absorb. And this tree is able to absorb about 140,000 liters of water, which is equivalent to 49,000 liters. And elephants do like it a lot. If an elephant is here, it will start scratching the back and then be sipping the water that drips. And then over here is a cave. This area is a cave. That was where the ladies over here were sleeping. So they were just crawling inside and then sleeping over there, and then early in the morning they just come out. So this is the female ostrich, and they can run 64 kilometers per hour, and they have a lifespan of 40 to 50 years. That's 40 when in the safari and then 50 when they are being killed. Because in the safari there are other animals that hunt or preys on them. But over here it's been taken care of, as you can see. And one of 8 eggs constitutes 34 eggs. That's a crate of egg. And the egg weighs 2 kg. And the ostrich actually weighs about 140 to 150 kg. That's about 37 pounds. But it's the only one left over here. So very soon they'll be bringing more. There are 3 species of zebras. These ones are called the plain zebra. That's the ones they use in the Madagascar cartoon. Then there is another one called the mountain zebra. They are like these ones, but the stripes do not end on the belly. It ends somewhere around the ribs. Then there is another one called the gravies. They have tiny stripes, and their stripes are a lot as compared to these ones. So with the plain, they have a lifespan of 25 to 30 years. And as you can see, they are herbivores. They feed on grasses. And then they have a gestation period of 12 months. That it takes them a year to give birth. And then with the zebras, one nice thing about them is when they give birth to them, within 15 minutes, the offspring stands. Within an hour, it walks. Within 3 years, they get matured and then start giving birth at age 5. Then another nice thing is that there are no 2 zebras having the same stripes. Their stripes are more like our thumbprints. Every zebra do have its unique one. So we are the Museum of Natural and Cultural Heritage at Shai Hills. So this shape you see mimics the hill behind the museum. And then the rocks in them mimics the settlement of the Shai people. And then the overall design of the museum is an open wingbat design. So we can go inside and then appreciate some of the archaeological and then the animal aspect of this museum. So let's go. Alright, so these are some of the skins from this reserve as well as other reserves. So this is one of the reasons why our operation ceases at 5 p.m. because they move very late. They are called the African North Python. They can swallow me, they can swallow you, they can swallow any of us. But one thing about them is that after they pounce on you, strangle you, they swallow you. So with them, after swallowing, they will have to lie down for some months or some weeks for whatever they've swallowed to digest or melt down before they then start moving. So if you want to kill an animal like this, it's going to be quite okay if you do it when that animal has fed. So if you are running a tow and then they come across, you imagine you moving very late and then they've not fed. There will be a possibility of they trying to feed. Then we have the skeleton of a dwarf crocodile, not from this reserve, another reserve. Then we have the genet cat skins, as you can see. They're also bush cats, they are wild cats. They move very late, so we don't see them often. It's normally our patrol unit that normally comes across them, because sometimes during the patrol on a bike, you see them and then they just run away. Then I made mention of the 3 types of antelopes. There are 3 species of antelopes. We have one called the cob, we have one called the bushback. This is the bushback. We have one called the diker. So the dikers are quite different from the cob and the bushback, but they are all part of the antelope species. But there is no deer in Ghana and West Africa, to be precise. Deers are not native to these areas. Okay. So let's move to this side. The skin of a leopard over here, that's from the Bole National Park in the north. And then we have the Nile crocodile too over here from the Bole National Park. And then we have the monitor lizard from this reserve. And then we have the civet cat, also a very wild cat. Then we have the bushback skin. And then we have the cob skin. This is what we saw within the reserve, the one we saw grazing. That's it. Then we have the baboon skins over here, they are very hairy. And then we have the lion cubs taken in the COVID era, that's 2020. And then we do have this image, baboon image taken around here. And then this is one of the bird species within our reserve. There are about 175 bird species within this reserve. And this one is not really a lot. They are called the green turtle. Okay, and then we have the image butterfly expedition over here. So as part of the tourist activities we operate in, we have butterfly expedition. These are some of the butterfly species found within our reserve. So you can take a close look at them. These are not all, but some. Then this is an image or a drone shot taken from the Almina Cape Coast area. So we can see the people around this side as well. Then we can move to this side. As such, we have the history of dates and everything found within this book. So there is a big expert over here. There is a big expert over here. So he is giving the history of dates, those who wear particular dates, and everything about dates over here. So you know, with the depot, right, they usually put on lots of baits and all that. There are particular baits that are meant for big people, big men and all that. So they are giving the processes in making baits. So if you are a bait lover, you can take a picture of this and then look for it online. They said it's available online. Then we can move to this area. Alright, so we have some of the things being molded by the indigenous Shais. So these are some of the stuff they molded. And then you saw the groups I showed you at the top. These were the stones they were using in doing the grinding. And then this, the Elishna bottles. Some time ago, our mothers were looking for them. They said there's mercury in it. They said if you have one, you'll be rich and all that. That's it. And then during the transatlantic slave trade, the barter trade period, these were some of the things we had during the barter trade. We giving out the gold and other stuff, and they giving us these ceramics. And then we can move to this side. Right, so the broken pieces of pot were used for food and water storage. Then the ones with the rough edges were used for scraping or cutting. Then these two sticks you are seeing, they used to sharpen them and then place them at the tip of the huge sticks. And then the stones were sparked for fire. And then during the stay of these people, these were some of the gods. You know, they came since the 1,000 AD. So these were some of the gods they molded and then they were worshipping. Because during the 1,000 AD, by then Christianity hasn't flourished that much. So they were worshipping these gods. So all these gods are found within this book. So we have the figurine manufacture god. They have the religions and rituals. They have the personhood, healing and medicine. They have the personhood and the body. So with them, as to what's happening to you, that will determine the actual god you have to go to and then pray to. And then these are some of the gods. And then the man who just spoke to us, Mr. William, that's him. He is in charge of this place because this place is under the Archaeological Department of Legon and Forestry Commission. So he handles this area. So he conducted this whole research. But by then he was a minister, but he's a doctor now. He just came like last month. He went for research work elsewhere. Then we can move to this. At our Ramsar site. When we say Ramsar, it has to do with the internationally recognized wetland areas. And those areas also do generate revenues for the country. Okay. Then we have the archaeology of the Danish plantation agriculture in the Dodowa area, also known as the Fredrikstad plantation. So the Danish people inhabited the Dodowa area and then started this plantation. But during the excavation, this was what we had. And then after the projection, this was the building they had. So during their stay, they started this plantation and they needed more hands to work over here. That's during the transatlantic slave trade period. So the people, they bought slaves from all over Ghana and they were working over here. So they worked for some time and then later the building went down. So after the building went down, those living over there by then were being transported using the shores. So they weren't able to trace back where they came from, their origin. So they then had to reside or live around the Dodowa area. So when you go to Dodowa, you see so many tribes living within the same community. It was as a result of Fredrikstad plantation. Then that is it for the museum. This is where we finish our tour. So have a wonderful day.